Hello and welcome to our class, CST 472, also known as Organizational Communication, or as I would much prefer to call it, Communicating at Work. This class isn't about work communication per se, or don't think it's about public relations. It's not. That's communicating work, communicating with the public. Advertising, work, communicating with customers. This is more about the internal dynamics of relationships and communication patterns in your workplace, not unlike a family. And just as every family has unique but very standard communication patterns, some families argue all the time, other families don't talk at all, etc., etc. Organizations can also, though communication has to happen for there to be productivity. So this is about how people interact at work, interpersonally, one-on-group, group communication, and even a little bit of typically bosses addressing an entire company with new policies or whatever changes need to happen, or pep talks, all of that. All right, as a teacher, my teaching style, a little bit, and we're just going to take a few minutes in this video. I'll try to be as brief as I can for you to get to know what I expect of you in the class and for you to get to know me a little bit. I record videos like this for each one of the chapters and a few extras on important issues, and mainly you get to know me through these. You know, you can read the same things in the book, and I can tell by the number of hits on YouTube. Not everybody watches the lectures, and I'm not offended by that. But I do like to tell stories here in the lectures to try to make them more relevant to you, to your life at work, at home, whatever class I teach. I'm here on campus. I have an office, room 313, upstairs in the communication building. I'm a full-time lecturer here at Northern Arizona University and hold office hours. You can, I have an office phone. It's on the syllabus. You can call that phone number and leave a message if you like, and I'll call you back, but it transcribes the message for me. Wonderful communication technology. I read it on my email then, and then I can listen to it on the email also, and then give you a call back. Email is a good way to communicate with me as well, and texting, not so much. I text with just a handful of people. All right, I try to make the class relevant to you in whatever. I want you to take, you know, for the stories to be good examples, hopefully, of the principles in the book. The book's stories often aren't as interesting, I think. Also, relevance in terms of just the theories and ideas in the book, putting them into practice at work right away. That's what I'm really wanting you to get. That what's in the textbook is not, oh, I'll never use that, just have to jump through the hoops to get a college degree. If we're doing that, we're all wasting our time, and good grief, I could teach a class with auto-graded tests all the way through instead of just a few quizzes and make my job a lot easier. But I don't want that. I want you to get this material, and I want it to change how you interact with people. I try to teach you to write in my courses. This is an upper level course, 400 level, and you should be writing at a senior level at this point. But many of you are not. I recognize that. And there are many reasons for that, and I won't point fingers. Let's just learn to write. And I was told, after I was a PhD student, by one of the top people in the field of rhetoric at a conference, she said real quietly, "You really need to learn how to write." And then she handed me the essay I had just presented at that conference, and she had gone through every page and marked it up. And I got the message. I need to step up my game a little bit with writing. And I did so, and took it much more seriously after that, and continue to do so and try to still improve as a writer. It's a lifelong experience. In this class, we can get you above that threshold of good writer, and your bosses will be impressed with your reports, your proposals, whatever you do. Okay, I want you to communicate with me throughout the class if there's any problems at all. Some people I never hear from, the grades show up, their essays show up, and I never really get to know you. And they're like the people that sit in the back of the room and are quiet and never talk anyway, so no difference there. But if you're starting to have problems, let me know about it and let's talk. There are always options. Expectations for the course. I do want you to get a book and read it. Read the whole thing, chapter by chapter as we go through. There will be short quizzes, true and false quizzes, which can be a little tricky for each chapter. I do not put in trick questions. So if you read a question and don't quite get it, be assured it's not a trick question. It could be a poorly worded question. That happens from time to time. Or it could be a question that's a little ambiguous, or maybe it's an issue that, the book does say two things about. And so look at those, but it's not a trick question. Go with the answer that seems to be best. You need to write up the assignments. We have two kinds of them that are written assignments. Ones are the discussion posts. I typically ask you to go out and do something and then tell us about it in the discussion post. Write it up. And then there are the essays, 3 essays in the class that you write up for me. Be on time with all your assignments. Don't get any late fees. That helps your grade quite a bit. Get things in on time, but that also keeps you going through the class, because 8 weeks goes really fast. In just a month, we're going to be over halfway through. A week after that, we're going to start looking at the final assignment and winding things down. And I'm always surprised how quickly these semesters go. And again, communicate with me if you're having any trouble at all with your scheduling or the class. This tends to be more of a problem at the end of the second session towards Christmas break. But stay in touch if you're having problems. There are always options. Okay, on the assignments, there will be a quiz for each chapter I mentioned, true, false. We have the discussion forum post, and there's essays. That's all. There are 4 discussion forums and 3 essays to write. My late policy. If it's late, turn it in. I'm not mad at you. I'm not going to shred your essay. I'm just going to take off a few points. To be fair to people that got it in on time. 1 point per day for being late. Up to 15. That's on the essays. With discussions, we'll go up to 5 points. But avoid that. You don't need to be getting 5 and 6 points off of every essay you write, and another 3 or 4 off of the discussion posts. If you can get it done by Tuesday, why not get it done by Sunday night? Plan ahead. Get these things in on time. Don't get these points taken off. So, if you're ill or your children are sick, don't worry about it. Do what you have to do for your family. Turn in the essay 2 days late. 2 points off. That's not going to hurt, but that gives you a lot of extra time to take care of family emergencies and those things that do come up. I'm not one of those hard-assed professors who slams you with a full letter grade deduction for being 15 minutes late, like happened to me once. This is not a journalism class. In journalism departments, yeah, we do that. But every other department, I still don't see the justification for it. If you're not grown up by now, it's not my job. All right, that's our late policy. Okay, a little bit about me as we wind this up. I attended a bachelor's degree at Arizona State University back in 1995. I graduated. From there, I went to Syracuse University for 2 years. Went on what I call the graduate school tour. I was 35 years old when I graduated. I was a returning student in my 30s at ASU. And I just found that doors opened up for me in academia. I had found that place where it's easy. Other professions I tried, the doors didn't open up. Things were tough, always struggling. But you'll find that with everything in your life, that some things come easy and just work for you. Other things are very difficult. Why beat your head against the wall? Go through the doors that open for you and do the kinds of things that come more easily, that are suited to your gifts and talents. So I went to Syracuse University to study communication. My bachelor's degree was in communication. Studied there for 2 years and drifted over into this world of rhetoric. And I wrote a thesis about rhetoric. Did well there. The thesis won the Master's Prize for the college, and helped get me into, I think, 4 universities at the PhD level. Because I decided I wanted to be a teacher, and realized you have to have a PhD to really get a good job teaching at the university level. And so I chose to go to the University of Memphis. And hard decision. I could have gone to Penn State or Northwestern. or Indiana University, and I chose the University of Memphis because the guy who directed my dissertation was there, John Campbell, and I wanted him to do my dissertation. I really liked his work, and so at that point I started following a specific professor to learn, to be mentored, rather than the school with the best reputation. Tough decisions. You may have to face those if you're headed to grad school. I became an expert in persuasion under John Campbell's tutelage, and graduated with a PhD in rhetoric. And like with any college degree, you walk out of the graduation ceremony and all that knowledge is just swirling around on your head, and you feel like you didn't learn anything. But as the year passes, it settles in. And within a couple of years, I felt pretty confident about everything I'd learned. And all those things John made me do and read, I thanked him for those because it was good for me and it's what I needed. I became a scholar through the process and have written a couple of books on George Whitefield, a 1700s preacher whose sermons actually had these embedded political messages that really shaped people and changed the way they thought and led to, in my work, I argue, the American Revolution. Without George Whitefield, there would have been no American Revolution. I think he's worth studying and learning more about. And so I continue to study him to this day. I guess I'm one of the world's experts on him now. And there's a book on my desk for me to review about George Whitefield for a Journal of American History. And I typically write a couple of book reviews a year. And as here at NAU, I don't do a whole lot of research anymore. But I have been researching economics. You can't understand politics without understanding economics, and it's all wrapped up with social change. And all of these things really have grabbed my attention. I want to know how the world changes and what makes it change. Hence, I study persuasion. But to be good at persuasion, you have to study so many other things. A little bit more about me here. My father was an artist, still is, a very good artist. And I was an artist when I was young, wanted to be just like Dad, and so I painted all the time, painted pictures. I've got a whole bunch on my wall at home. I've managed to collect them back over the years from my mother and other people that moved and gave them back to me. A musician, I became a musician at the same time, so I was a really artsy, musical kind of guy throughout high school. And then moving into my young adult life, became a journeyman electrician. Went through a 4-year union apprenticeship in Phoenix, Arizona, and did that for about 10 years, 12 years. And then I decided, you know, I'm going to wear out my body. And even today at age 57, there's a lot of damage to my body that happened back then on those years in construction. And that was the prime motivator to become a teacher because I hadn't really been promoted much in the electrical field, and I was frustrated and out of work at times. So even though I was a pretty good electrician, but I was a good teacher and I didn't know it, and went on to go back to college. After college, I went back into construction for 1 year because I wanted to get my pension up to date and finish off the last year I needed to be vested in the pension. And I found that I was promoted at every place I worked up into management. And then it occurred to me, it's because I've got a college degree. No, not the college degree that did it. They didn't care. It's because I had learned how to communicate with people, especially in the workplace. And it made such a difference. And all of a sudden I realized what was holding me back all those years. We'll talk about those things a little more deeply as the class goes on. I went to Indiana University to teach in 2000 and taught there for 12 years, was an assistant professor, promoted to, got a raise in an endowed position where they gave me money to spend on my research, and promoted to associate professor, and I was ready to promote to full professor, be at the top of the field, and I was realizing this school is burning me out. Some good friends of mine have died young from stress-related illness, and I was stressed out. My blood pressure was high. I was overweight, and I thought, why do I think I'm so special that I'm not going to die young if I stay here? Scary thoughts, but you know, I was looking around and watching it happen. So I started looking for work elsewhere and was hired here at Northern Arizona University. I happily took a cut in pay, lost 4 ranks in the promotion scheme we have in the university, but now I teach again. I do what I want to do. I'm not under all that pressure to publish all the time and on every university committee you can imagine. I just get to teach, and that's what I like to do. Started writing a script about that time when I realized I need another job and I've got to quit this high pressure stuff. And so I've written a script for Hollywood romantic comedy. Never has been bought or picked up, but it was fun to learn how to write the script, and that kind of brought back that whole artistic part of me from years ago. At the same time, I've kept studying economics and started writing for an investment blog, and that's kind of what I do these days. Still working on the script writing, writing the investment blog. I write some reviews on George Whitefield books, go to a conference now and then, and I teach, and I really enjoy it. Since a picture is worth 1,000 words, here I am on the left there with my brother in between us and my sister, sitting on the edge of Chaco Canyon, I think. I was about 15 years old when this was taken. My dad was a hippie artist, and so here we were, some hippie kids, kind of grubby looking with long scraggly hair. And you know, hippie kids, when they rebel against their parents as they grow up, they turn into cowboys, I guess. So I've got my fine western suit here with my cowboy boots, playing a guitar at somebody's wedding. And just kind of really changed from age 16, 17, 18. I think I'm about 21 in this photo here. Now maybe 24, I don't know. But I kind of took this persona for a while. Hey, it's Arizona, I can be a cowboy if I want, right? My family were cowboys in Colorado. This was a few years later after graduating from college, and that's me with my daughter at Robert Indiana's sculpture of love. And that was one that was on the postage stamp in the 1970s. And we are still trying to get back to Indianapolis, the Museum of Art, and retake that photo 20 years later if we can. That might be about right. We had a chance this summer and missed it, just didn't go through town. But I'd like to recreate that, and you know, those side-by-side father-daughter photos, whatever. That's my daughter on the left and me, and you'll recognize the guy in the middle there, and my wife is on the other end. I was on a national TV show in New York a few years back, a show about George Whitefield, of course, and you'll recognize that as Glenn Beck, conservative talk show host, and not well liked. In fact, one of my colleagues asked me about it after I got the job. He just wanted to make sure I wasn't some conservative radical, and I assured him, no, I seek truth wherever I can find it, whether it's from the conservative end of our society to the liberal end. Everybody's got a little bit of the truth, and you have to listen to everybody, and you have to study everybody if you want to pull it all together. But enjoyed being on television there and doing that show. He was a very gracious person. The other professor on the show with me that day, he and I both agreed that Mr. Beck couldn't say one of the things he wanted to say about George Whitefield, and he didn't. He took our advice on that, and I gained some respect for him that day. All right, here I am with my cowboy hat just about a year ago, wrangling some chihuahuas there in my lap over to a friend's house, helping her get some solar panels set up on the roof. And that, I think, brings me to, my wife and I work on real estate. I've never been able to drop that construction side of me, or the artistic side or anything, which is why I mention all of it here. And so I'm on top of the roof, finishing off a roof on this little stone house built in the 1920s that my wife and I restored last year. Okay, so read your book for this course. Feel free to call me, email me, whatever, anytime, even if you just want to talk. I don't mind getting to know you better at all. I enjoy that part of teaching, and this class will move quickly, and I hope you learn some very useful things in it. You have a great day, and I'll see you in our Chapter 1 lecture.